All glory to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Madhya Lila, Chapter 15, Text 221. Amrita Gutika Pita Pana Anaila Jagannatha Prasada Sabha Pritaktarila. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also included several types of food that had been offered to Lord Jagannath. These included sweet balls known as Amrita Gutika, sweet rice, and cakes. All these were kept separate. Purport. Although the remnants of food left by Jagannath were brought into the Bhattacharya's house, they were kept separate from the preparations he had made at his home. It sometimes happens that prasadam is mixed with a larger quantity of food and then distributed, but in this case we find that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya kept Jagannath prasad separate. He kept it aside particularly for the satisfaction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 222. Inakale Mahaprabhu Madhya Kariya Ekale Aila Tandra Hridaya Janiya. When everything was ready, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there alone after finishing his midday duties. He knew the heart of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. 223. Bhattacharya Kailata Bepada Prachalana Hare Ravi Tari Gila Karite Bojana. After Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya washed the Lord's feet, the Lord entered the room to take his lunch. 224. Anhari Dekhiya Prabhu Vishmita Hana Bhattacharya Kahe Kichu Bangi Kariya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a little astonished to see the gorgeous arrangement, and gesturing, he spoke to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. 225. Alukika Esaba Anavyana Jana Duhi Prabhara Bhitare Karchahaila Randana. This is most uncommon. How was this arrangement of rice and vegetables finished within 6 hours? 226. Satachulaya Satajana Pakayari Kare Nabhushigra Etad Dravya Randhite Napare. Even 100 men cooking on 100 stoves could not possibly finish all these preparations within so short a time. 227. Krishnera Boga Bhaganacha Anumanakari Upare Dekiyate Tulasi Manjari. I hope the food has already been offered to Krishna, since I see there are tulasi flowers on it. 228. Bhagavantumi Safala Tumara Udyoga Radha Krishna Laganacha Itadrisha Bhoga. You are most fortunate, and your endeavor is successful, for you have offered such wonderful food to Radha Krishna. 229. Anhera Sora Vyavarna Atimano Rama Radha Krishna Sakshat Ihan Karya Chena Bhojana. The color of the rice is so attractive and its aroma is so good that it appears Radha and Krishna have directly taken it. 230. Tomara Bahuta Bhagya Kata Prasam Shiva Ami Bhagyavan Ihara Avisha Prabha. My dear Bhattacharya, your fortune is very great. How much shall I praise you? I also am very fortunate to be able to take the remnants of this food. 231. Krishnera asana pita Krishnera asana pita rakha utana Ore prashada dehi bina patreta kariya. Take away Krishna's sitting place and put it aside. Then give me prasadam on a different plate. 232. Bhattacharya bale prabhu nakaraha vishmaya yehi kavi tanhara shakti bhoga siddhahaya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "It is not so wonderful, my lord. Everything has been made possible by the energy and mercy of him who will eat the food." 233. Yoga nachila bhora grihira randhane yamra shakche bhoga sirha seita hajane. My wife and I did not especially exert ourselves in the cooking. He by whose power the food has been prepared knows everything. 234. Eta asa devasi karaha bhojana prabhu kahe puja ei krishnera asana. Now please sit in this place and take your lunch. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "This place is worshipable because it was used by Krishna. According to etiquette, things used by Krishna." Translation was, "Now please sit in this place and take your lunch." Purport is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "This place is worshipable because it was used by Krishna. According to etiquette, things used by Krishna should not be used by anyone else. Similarly, things used by the spiritual master should also not be used by anyone else. That is etiquette. Whatever is used by Krishna or the spiritual master is worshipable. In particular, their sitting or eating places should not be used by anyone else. A devotee must be very careful to observe this." 235. Bhattakahe anapita samana prasada anakabe pita vasite kahan aparadha. The Bhattacharya said, "Both the food and the sitting place are the Lord's mercy. If you can eat the remnants of the food, what is the offense in your sitting in this place?" 236. Prabhu kahe palakaile shastra agyahaya Krishnera sakala sesha vritya asvataya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "Yes, you have spoken correctly. The Shastras enjoin that the devotee can partake of everything left by Krishna." 237. Tvayo payukta shragandha vaso lankara chariticha uchista bhojina dasas tavamayam jayimahi. My dear Lord, the garlands, scented substances, garments, ornaments, and other such things have been offered to you, may later be used by your servants. By partaking of these things and eating the remnants of food you have left, we will be able to conquer the illusory energy. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.6.46. In the Hare Krishna movement, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra, the dancing in ecstasy, and the eating of remnants of food offered to the Lord are very important. One may be illiterate or incapable of understanding the philosophy, but if he partakes of these three items, he will certainly be liberated without delay. This verse was spoken by Uddhava to Lord Krishna. This was during the time when the Uddhava Gita was spoken. At that time, there was some disturbance in Dwarka, and Lord Krishna decided to leave the material world and enter the spiritual world. Uddhava could understand the situation, and he talked with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The verse quoted above is an excerpt from their conversation. Sri Krishna's pastimes in this material world are called Prakrita lila, manifested pastimes, and his pastimes in the spiritual world are called Aprakrita lila, unmanifested pastimes. By unmanifested, we mean that they are not present before our eyes. It is not that the Lord Krishna's pastimes are non-existent. They are going on exactly as the sun is shining perpetually. But when the sun is present before our eyes, we call it daytime, manifest. And when it is not present, we call it night, unmanifest. Those who are above the jurisdiction of night are always in the spiritual world, where the Lord's pastimes are constantly manifest to them. As the Brahma Samhita confirms, 5.37 through 38. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabhirya Eva Nijarupatya Kalabhihi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Chodita Bhakti Vilochanena Shanta Sadhaiva Hridayeshu Valokayanti Yam Sham Sundaram Achintya Gunasvarupam Govindam Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Hladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued with and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyam Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their hearts of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. (238) Tatapi ete ka anaka onanayaya Vata kahe jani ka uyate ka yuyaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "There is so much food here that it is impossible to eat it all." The Bhattacharya replied, "I know how much you can eat." That was the purport. 239. Nila chale bojana tumi karabhayana bara eka eka bogera ana sata sata bara. After all, at Jagannath Puri you eat 52 times a day, and each time you eat hundreds of buckets filled with prasada. 240. Varakate sola sahasra mahishi mandire astada samata ara yadevaragara. At Dwarka, you keep 16,000 queens in 16,000 places. Also, there are 18 mothers and numerous friends and relatives of the Yadu dynasty. 241. Rajejeta kudha mama pishari gopagana sakavrinda sabaragare vishantya bojana. In Vrindavan, you also have your father's elder brothers, your father's younger brothers, maternal uncles, husbands of your father's sisters, and many cowherd men. There are also cowherd boyfriends, and you eat twice a day, morning and evening, in the house of each and every one. Purport. In Dwarka, Lord Krishna had 18 mothers, Devaki, Rohini, and others. Besides these were his foster mother, Yashoda, in Vrindavan. Lord Krishna also had many uncles, as stated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Brahat Shri Shri Radha Krishna Ganodesha Dipika, 32. Upanando Binandascha Pitravyao Purva Jahal Pitu. The elder brothers of Nanda Maharaj were Upananda and Abhinanda. Similarly, in the same verse, the names of the younger brothers of Nanda Maharaj are given. Pitvayu tu Kaniyam Sao Syatim Sananda Nandana. Sananda and Nandana, also known as Sunanda and Pandava, were the younger brothers of Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj. Sri Krishna's maternal uncles are also described in this book. In verse 46, Yashodhara, Yashodeva, Sudeva Dyas, Tumatula. Yashodhara, Yashodeva, and Sudeva were the maternal uncles of Krishna. Also mentioned in the Radha Krishna Ganodesha Dipika 38 are Krishna's uncles, who were the husbands of Nanda Maharaj's sisters. Mahanila Sunilascha Ramanav Itayo Kramat. Mahanila and Sunila are the husbands of Krishna's aunts. 242. Gopardhana Yageyana Kaila Rasi Rasi Tadhale Kaya Ana Nahe Ekagrasi. Indeed, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, at the Govardhan Puja ceremony, you ate stacks of rice. In comparison to that, this small quantity is not even a morsel for you. 243. Tumita is paramuni chudra jivachara ekagrasa madhukari karaha angikara. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas I am most insignificant living being. Therefore, please accept a little quantity of food from my house. Purport. A sannyasi is expected to collect a little food from each and every householder. That is to say, he should take whatever he requires to eat. This system is called madhukari. The word madhukari comes from the word madhukara and means honey collecting bees. Bees collect a little honey from each flower, but all these small quantities of honey accumulate to become a beehive. Sannyasis should collect a little from each and every householder and should eat simply what is necessary to maintain the body. Being a sannyasi, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could collect a little food from the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and this was the Bhattacharya's request. Compared to the food eaten by the Lord on other occasions, the Bhattacharya's feast was not even a morsel. This was what the Bhattacharya is pointing out to the Lord. (244) Etasuni hasi prabhu vashila bhojane jagannatera prasada bhaktadena harshamane. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and sat down to eat. The Bhattacharya, with great pleasure, first offered him the prasadam from Jagannath temple. 245. Henakale amhoga Bhattacharyera jamata kulina nindaka tenho sati kanyara bharata. At this time, the Bhattacharya had a son-in-law named Amogha, who was the husband of his daughter Sati. Although born in an aristocratic Brahmana family, Amogha was a great fault-finder and blasphemer. 246. Bhojana dekhite chahe ashite na pare latihate Bhattacharya achena dudhare. Amogha wanted to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eat, but he was not allowed to enter. Indeed, the Bhattacharya guarded the threshold of his house with a stick in his hand. (247) Tenho yadi prashada jite haila anamana Amogha asi anadeki karaye nindana. However, as soon as the Bhattacharya began distributing prasadam and was a little inattentive, Amogha came in. Seeing the quantity of food, he began to blaspheme. 248. Ei ane triptahaya dasabhara jana ekela sanyasi kare eteka bhakshana. This much food is sufficient to satisfy 10 or 12 men, but this sannyasi alone is eating so much. 249. Sunitehi bhattacharya ulati chahila kamra avadhana deki amokha palaila. As soon as Amokha said this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya turned his eyes upon him. Seeing the Bhattacharya's attitude, Amokha immediately left. 250. Bhattacharya Bhattilana Varite Daila Palaila Omogatara Lagana Paila. The Bhattacharya ran after him to strike him with a stick, but Amogha fled so fast that the Bhattacharya could not catch him. 251. Tabhigale sapadite Bhattacharya aila Nindasuni Mahaprabhu Hashite Lagila. The Bhattacharya then began to curse his son-in-law and call him ill names. When the Bhattacharya returned, he saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was laughing to hear him criticize Amogha. 252. Suni satira mata sire buke gata mare satirandi hauka iha bale bare bare. When Sati's mother, the Bhattacharya's wife, heard of this incident, she immediately began to strike her head and chest, saying again and again, "Let Sati become a widow." 253. Dunhara dukha dekhi prabhu dunha prabho diya dunhara ichate bojana kaila tustahana. Seeing the lamentation of both husband and wife, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to pacify them. According to their desire, he ate the prasadam and was very satisfied. 254. Achamana karana bata dila mukha vasa tulasi manjari lavanga ilasi rasa vasa ilasi rasa vasa. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finished eating, the Bhattacharya poured water for the Lord to wash his mouth, hands, and legs, and offered him flavored spices, tulasi manjaris, cloves, and cardamom. 255. Sarpange parhala prabhura bhalya chandana dandhavatana bhale sad dandhavatana bhale sadhanya vachana. The Bhattacharya then placed a flower garland over Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and smeared his body with sandalwood pulp. After offering obeisances, the Bhattacharya submitted the following humble statement. 256. Nindakarate toma aninun vijagare ehiya paradha prabhu shamakara more. I brought you to my home just to have you blaspheme. This is a great offense. Please excuse me. I beg your pardon. 257. Prabhu kahe ninda nahe sajaha kahila ihate tomara kiba aparadha haila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "What Amogha has said is correct. Therefore, it is not blasphemy. What is your offense?" 258. Etabali Mahaprabhu Chalila Bhavane Bhattacharya Tanra Gare Lila Tanra Sane. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left and returned to his residence. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya followed him. 259. Prabhupada Paribahu Atmaninda Kaila Reshanta Kari Prabhu Hare Pakaila. Falling down at the Lord's feet, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said many things in self-reproach. The Lord then pacified him and sent him back to his home. 260. Gareyasi Bhattacharya Satira Matasane Apana Nindiya Kichu Valena Vachane. After returning to his home, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya consulted with his wife, the mother of Sati. After personally condemning himself, he began to speak as follows. 261. Chaitanya Goshanira Ninda Sunila Yaharte Tadevadha Kaile Kaya Papa Prayashite. If the man who blasphemed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is killed, his sinful action may be atoned. Purport. The Hari Bhakti Vilasa cites the following quotation from the Skanda Purana concerning the blaspheming of a Vaishnava. Yohi Bhagavatam Lokam Upasam Nirpotama Karoti Tasya Nasyanti Artadharma. Yohi Bhagavatam Lokam Upasam Nirpotama Karoti Tasya Nasyanti Artha Dharma Yasa Sutta. Nindam kurvanti ye mudha vaishnavanam mahatmanam katanti prithvihi sardham maha rarava samjinite hanti nindati vaidvesti vaishnavam nabhinandati rodhyate kati no harsham darshane kathanani sat. In the conversation between Markandeya and Bhagirath, it is said, "My dear king, one who derides an exalted devotee loses the results of his pious activities, his opulence, his reputation, and his sons. Vaishnavas are all great souls. Whoever blasphemes them falls down to the hell known as Mahavarava, accompanied by his forefathers. Whoever kills or blasphemes a Vaishnava, and whoever is envious of a Vaishnava or angry with him, or whoever does not offer him obeisances, or feel joy upon seeing him, certainly falls into a hellish condition." Also, the Hari Bhakti Vilasa 10.314 gives the following quotation from the Dvarka Mahatmya. Karapatrischa palyante sutivarar yamasashanai Nindam kurvanti ye papa vaishnavanam mahatmanam. In a conversation between Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, it is said, "Those sinful people who blaspheme Vaishnavas are all great souls, are subjected very severely to the punishment offered by Yamaraj." In his Bhakti Sandarbha 3.13, Jiva Goswami quotes this statement concerning the blaspheming of Lord Vishnu. Ye nindanti rishikesham tad bhaktam punya rupinam satha janmar jitam punyam tisham nasyati nishchitam te pachante mahagore kambi pake bhayanake Vakshita Kita Sangena Yavak Chandra Divar Karao Sri Vishnur Abhamanand Gurutaram Sri Vaishnava Valondanam Tadiya Dushaka Janan Na Pasyat Purushadhaman Tai Sarham Vanshaka Janai Saha Vasham Na Na Karayat. One who criticizes Lord Vishnu and his devotees loses all the benefits accrued in hundreds of pious births. Such a person rots in the Kumbhipaka hell and is bitten by worms as long as the sun and moon exist. One should therefore not even see the face of a person who blasphemes Lord Vishnu and his devotees. Never try to associate with such persons. In his Bhakti Sandarbha 265, Jiva Goswami further quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.74.40. Nindam Bhagavata Shrinvam Tatparasya Janasyava Tato Napaitaya Sopi Yatyatha Shuprachuja. If one does not immediately leave upon hearing the Lord or the Lord's devotees blasphemy, he falls down from devotional service. Similarly, Lord Shiva's wife Sati states in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.4.17, Karnau Pirhaya Nirhaya Jad Akapvashe Dharmavitaryas Nirbihi Revir Asyamane Chinjat Prahasya Rushatim Asatim Prabhushchet Jivam Asun Api Tato Visrujet Sadharmaha. If one hears an irresponsible person blaspheme the master and controller of religion, he should block his ears and go away if unable to punish him. But if one is able to kill, then one should by force cut out the blasphemer's tongue and kill the offender, and after that he should give up his own life. (262) Kimbanija pranayadi tari vimochana duvi yogya nahi duvi sarira brahmana. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, or if I give up my own life, this sinful action may be atoned. However, neither of these ideas is befitting, because both bodies belong to Brahmanas. Punasei nindakera mukana dekiba Rityaga kailuntara namana laiba. Instead, I shall never see the face of that blasphemer. I reject him and give up my relationship with him. I shall never even speak his name. 264. Satire kaha tare cha duka sahaila patita patita haile bharta chajite uchita. Inform my daughter Sati to abandon her relationship with her husband because he has fallen down. When the husband falls down, it is the wife's duty to relinquish their relationship. Purport. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya considered that if a Moga were killed, the killer would suffer sinful reactions for killing the body of a Brahmana. For the same reason, it would have been undesirable for the Bhattacharya to commit suicide because he also was a Brahmana. Since neither course could be accepted, the Bhattacharya decided to give up his relationship with the Moga and never see his face. As far as killing the body of a Brahmana is concerned, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.53 gives the following injunction concerning a Brahma Bandhu, a person born of a Brahmana, father but devoid of Brahminical qualities. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Brahma Bandhur na hantavya atavi mandar hana. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna said, a Brahma Bandhu is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, then he must be killed. Quoting from the Smriti, Srila Sridhar Swami comments on this quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Atatayinam ayantam api vedanta paragam jigam santam yihigasyan natena brahmaha bhavet. An aggressor intent on killing may be a very learned scholar of Vedanta, yet he should be killed because of his envy in killing others. In such case, it is not a sin to kill a Brahmana. It is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.57, Vapanam Dravindanam Stanan Niryapanam Tata Esahi Brahma Bandhunam Aro Nanyosti Taikika. Cutting the hair from his head, depriving him of his wealth, and deriving him from his residence are the prescribed punishments for Brahmana Bandhu. There is no injunction for killing the body. As far as Sati, the daughter of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, was concerned, she was advised to give up her relationship with her husband. Concerning this, Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18 states, Na patischasa shana vachoyeja samupeta mrityum. One cannot be a husband if he cannot liberate his dependents from inevitable death. If a person is not in Krishna consciousness and is bereft of spiritual power, he cannot protect his wife from the path of repeated birth and death. Consequently, such a person cannot be accepted as a husband. A wife should dedicate her life and everything to Krishna for further advancement in Krishna consciousness. If her husband abandons Krishna consciousness and she gives up her connection with him, she follows in the footsteps of the Dvija Patnis, the wives of the Brahmanas who were engaged in performing sacrifices. The wife is not to be condemned for cutting off such a relationship. In this regard, Sri Krishna assures the Dvija Patnis in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.23.31 through 32. Athayo nabhyasuyeram pitrabhratar sutataya lokaschavo mayopita deva api anumanvate napritaye nuragaya hi anga sango nranam iha tanmano mai yunjana achiran mam avapyastata. My dear Dvija Patnis, rest assured that your husbands will not neglect you on your return, nor will your brothers, sons, or fathers refuse to accept you. Because you are my pure devotees, not only your relatives, but also people in general, as well as the demigods, will be satisfied with you. Transcendental love for me does not depend upon bodily connection, but anyone whose mind is always absorbed in me will surely very soon come to me for my eternal association. 265. Patimcha patitam tyajet. When a husband is fallen, one's relationship with him must be given up. Purport. This is a quotation from the Smriti Shastra, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.28. Santustalo lupadacha dharmagya priya satyavak apramata suchis nigra patim tvapatitam bhajet. A wife who is satisfied, who is not greedy, who is expert, and who knows religious principles, who speaks what is dear and truthful and what is not bewildered, and who is always clean and affectionate, should be very much devoted to her husband if he is not fallen. (15.266) Sehiratre amokha kahan alana kela ratakale tara vishu chika vyadhi haila. That night Amokha, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's son-in-law, fled, and in the morning he immediately fell sick with cholera. 267. Amokha marina sunhi kahe Bhattacharya Sahaya Daiva Kaila Mora Sahaya Haiya Daiva Kaila Mora Karya. When the Bhattacharya heard that Amogha was dying of cholera, he thought, it is the favor of Providence that he is doing what I want to do. Isvareta aparadha faleta takshana etabali pare duhi shastrera vachana. When one offends the Supreme Personality of Godhead, karma immediately takes effect. After saying this, he recited 2 verses from the revealed scriptures. 269. Mahata hi prayatnena hastyasva rata patibihi asmabir yad anustayam gandharvaistad anustitam. What we have to arrange with great endeavor by collecting elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry soldiers has already been accomplished by the Gandharvas. Purport. This is a quotation from Mahabharata, Vanaparva 241.15. Bhimashena made this statement when all the Pandavas were living in exile in the forest. At that time, there was a fight between the Kauravas and the Gandharvas. The Kaurava soldiers were under the command of Karna, but the commander-in-chief of the Gandharvas was able to arrest all the Kauravas by virtue of superior military strength. At that time, Duryodhana's ministers and commanders requested Maharaja Yudhishthira to help. After being thus petitioned, Bhimashena spoke the verse given above, remembering Duryodhana's former nefarious and atrocious activities against them. Indeed, Bhimasena felt it very fitting that Duryodhana and his company were arrested. This could have been accomplished by the Pandavas only with great endeavor. 270. Ayushriyam yaso dharmam lokam asisha evacha antishriyam si sarvani punsho mahad atikrama. When a person mistreats great souls, his lifespan, opulence, reputation, religion, possessions, and good fortune are all destroyed. Purport. This statement, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.46, was made by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. This quotation concerns the attempted killing of Krishna's sister, Yogamaya, who appeared before Krishna's birth as the daughter of Mother Yashoda. This daughter, Yogamaya, and Krishna were born simultaneously. Vasudeva replaced Yogamaya with Krishna and took Yogamaya away. When she was brought to Mathura and Kamsa attempted to kill her, Yogamaya slipped out of his hands. She could not be killed. Then informed Kamsa about the birth of his enemy, Krishna, and being thus baffled, Kamsa consulted his associates who were all demons. When this big conspiracy was taking place, this verse was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. He points out that a demon can lose everything because of his nefarious activities. The word Mahad Atikrama, meaning envy of Lord Vishnu and his devotees, is significant in this verse. The word Mahat indicates a great personality, the devotee or the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Being always engaged in the Lord's service, the devotees themselves are as great as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Mahat is also explained by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 9.13. Mahat panas tumam parta davim prakritim ashrita bhajanti anyay manaso jatva bhutadam avyayam. O son of Pritha, who are not deluded, the great souls are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Being envious of the Lord and his devotees is not at all auspicious for a demon. By such envy, a demon loses everything considered beneficial. 271. Gopinata Charya Gela Prabhudara Shane Prabhutanre Puchila Bhattacharya Divarane. At this time, Gopinathacharya went back to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord asked him about events taking place in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. (272) Acharya kahe upavasha kaila duwijana vishupchika yadhite amoka chadiche jivana. Gopinath Acharya informed the Lord that both the husband and the wife were fasting, and that their son-in-law Amogha was dying of cholera. 273. Suni kripa maya prabhu vaila dana amoghere kahe tara bhuke hastadiya. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Amogha was going to die, he immediately ran to him in great haste. Placing his hand on Amogha's chest, he spoke to him as follows. 274. Sahaje nirmala ehi brahmana hridaya krishnera vashite ehi yogyastana haya. The heart of a Brahmana is by nature very clean. Therefore, it is a proper place for Krishna to sit. 275. Matsarya Chandala Kene Ihanva Sahile Arama Pavitra Stana Apavitra Kaile. Why have you allowed Chandala of jealousy to sit here also? In this way you have contaminated a most purified place, your heart. 276. Sarvabhoma Sangeto Mara Kalusha Hailakshaya Kalmasa Guchi Le Jiva Krishna Namalaya. However, due to the association of Sarvabhoma Bhattacharya, all your contamination is now vanquished. When a person's heart is cleansed of all contamination, he is able to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna. 277. Uddhaha amodhatumi bhao Krishna nama achire tomare kripa karibe bhagavan. Therefore, Amogha, get up and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If you do so, Krishna will unfailingly bestow his mercy upon you. Purport. The Absolute Truth is realized in three phases: impersonal Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. All of these are one and the same truth, but Brahman, Paramatman, and Bhagavan constitute three different features. Whoever understands Brahman is called a Brahmana, and when a Brahmana engages in the Lord's devotional service, he is called a Vaishnava. Unless one comes to understand the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his realization of impersonal Brahman is imperfect. A Brahmana can chant the Hare Krishna mantra on the platform of Namabhas, but not on the platform of pure vibration. When a Brahmana engages in the Lord's service, fully understanding his eternal relationship, his devotional service is called Abhideya. It's called Abhideya. When one attains that stage, he is called a Bhagavata or a Vaishnava. This indicates that he is free from contamination and material attachment. Lord Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 7.28. Yesham tvanta gatam papam janam punya karmanam te dvandha moha nirmukta vajante mam dridha vrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the duality of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. A Brahmana may be a very learned scholar, but this does not mean he is free from material contamination. A Brahmana's contamination, however, is in the mode of goodness. In the material world, there are three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance, and all of these are simply different gradations of contamination. Unless a Brahmana transcends such contamination and approaches the platform of unalloyed devotional service, he cannot be accepted as a Vaishnava. An impersonalist may be aware of impersonal Brahman, feature of the Absolute Truth, but his activities are on the impersonal platform. Sometimes he imagines a form of the Lord, Saguna Upashana, But such an attempt is never successful in helping one attain complete realization. The impersonalist may consider himself a Brahmana and may be situated in the mode of goodness, but nonetheless he is conditioned by one of the modes of material nature. This means that he is not yet liberated, for liberation cannot be attained unless one is completely free from the modes. In any case, the Mayavad philosophy keeps one conditioned. If one becomes a Vaishnava through proper initiation, he automatically becomes a Brahmana. There is no doubt about it. The Garuda Purana confirms this. Brahmanam sahasrebhyaha satra yagji vishayate vishishate. Satra yagya sahasrebhyaha sarva vedanta paragaha sarva vedanta vid kotya Vishnu bhakto vishayate vishishate. Out of many thousands of Brahmanas, one may become qualified to perform yajna. Out of many thousands of such qualified Brahmanas, one may be fully aware of the Vedanta philosophy. Out of millions of learned Vedanta scholars, there may be one Vishnu Bhakta, or devotee of Lord Vishnu. It is he who is most exalted. Unless one is fully qualified Brahmana, he cannot advance in the spiritual science. A real Brahmana is never envious of Vaishnavas. If he is considered an imperfect neophyte. Impersonalist Brahmanas are always opposed to Vaishnava principles. They are envious of Vaishnavas because they do not know the goal of life. Rate vidhu svarta gatim hi vishnum. However, when a Brahmana becomes a Vaishnava, there is no duality. If a Brahmana does not become a Vaishnava, he certainly falls down from the Brahmana platform. This is confirmed by Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.3. Na bhajanti, na bhajananti, stanad brahastata, brahasta, patantyada. You can actually see that in this age of Kali, so many so-called Brahmanas are envious of Vaishnavas. The Kali-contaminated Brahmanas considered deity worship to be imaginative. Arche Vishnu Shiladir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. Such a contaminated Brahmana may superficially imagine a form of the Lord, but actually he considers the deity in the temple to be made of stone or wood. Similarly, such a contaminated Brahmana considers the Guru to be an ordinary human being, and he objects when a Vaishnava is created by the Krishna consciousness movement. So many so-called Brahmanas attempt to fight us, saying, how can you create a Brahmana out of a European or American? A Brahmana can only be born in a Brahmana family. They do not consider that this is never stated in any revealed scripture. Lord Krishna specifically states in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam Mana Karma Vibhagasha. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. Thus, a Brahmana is not a result of a caste system. He becomes a Brahmana only by qualification. Similarly, a Vaishnava does not belong to a particular caste. Rather, his designation is determined by the rendering of devotional service. Thus ends our reading for today. All glories to Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Vimalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Haribol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Haribol. Please accept my humble Dandavat Pranam.